Ever feel like you're on this crazy treadmill and someone just keeps upping the speed, like drowning in notifications and demands, even when you just want to, like, breathe?
It really is the paradox of our time. I mean, finite lifespan,
Right.
right? But infinite distractions.
Exactly. And it's like, how do we even begin to navigate that? That's why we're diving into these two blog posts by Kevin Hunt. He's a spinal physiotherapist, and he's got these amazing analogies. They really make you think about protecting your well-being, especially in this digital age.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating about his work is he doesn't just stop at the physical stuff, right?
Yeah.
He connects it to this bigger question of are we, spending our limited time in a way that our future selves will actually thank us for?
Oh, that's such a good point. And
Mhm.
speaking of analogies, in his post Knock Knock, he uses this one that's so vivid. He asks us to imagine every notification, like every single ping, as someone ringing our doorbell, like unexpectedly.
Oh, I love that.
Right. So you finally relax for the evening and bam,
Mm.
another interruption.
It's brilliant because you actually feel that intrusion, right? And he's not just talking about the annoyance factor. He's pointing to what it does to us physically. Like each ping sends that jolt of cortisol, adrenaline. It's a micro stressor, but we're so used to it we don't even register it anymore.
It's kind of scary how desensitized we've become.
Yeah.
But thinking back to that doorbell analogy, would you just let people barge into your house all evening?
No, absolutely not.
Right. We'd set boundaries in the real world, but
Yeah.
then our phones, it's like this free-for-all zone. And this is where things get really interesting, because Hunt goes on to say that this constant phone reliance is, get this, the smoking of our time.
Right.
Like, back in the day, we thought it was harmless, and now obviously we know how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we're going to look back on our phone habits the same way?
It's a question worth pondering, right? Like the article points out how back in the day, people would just light up cigarettes everywhere, like restaurants, airplanes, even hospitals.
Yeah,
Now you can barely walk down the street without passing like a designated smoking area.
that's true.
It really makes you think about how societal norms can change so drastically when the health risks become clear. So, who knows? Maybe our grandkids will be shocked to hear we used to sleep with our phones right next to our beds.
I mean, it's true. I
Yeah.
mean, I still do it, so who knows?
Yeah.
But, when you think about it,
Yeah.
smoking was once seen as harmless, even sophisticated.
Oh, totally. And now we know the long-term costs, right?
Exactly. So are we on a similar path with technology? Are we overlooking the potential downsides?
I mean, it's definitely a question worth asking. What will future generations think of our always-on culture? And this leads us to another concept Hunt brings up in both blog posts, the health hexagon.
Oh, yeah, the health hexagon.
He argues that well-being has these 6 interconnected sides: physical, emotional, cognitive, spiritual, nutritional, and the sleep cycle.
Right. And what he's suggesting is that all these pings, these little dopamine hits we get from our phones, they're actually chipping away at all sides of this hexagon without us even realizing it.
It's true. Think about it. If you don't sleep well, you can't focus, stress affects your mood, leads to bad food choices. It's a ripple effect. And the scary part is a lot of it happens below our conscious radar.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, are we sacrificing that long-term well-being just for that quick hit of checking our phones?
It's like we're in autopilot, right? Making those trade-offs without even realizing it. And that's where Hunt's work is so valuable, I think. He's like shining a light on those choices we're making. Every single notification, like even if you only glance at it for just a split second,
Right.
it triggers a mini stress response in your body.
So basically what you're saying is, even if I think I'm handling it all like a pro on the outside,
Yeah.
my body's like freaking out with every single ding and buzz.
Exactly. And the thing is those seemingly small stress responses, those what the article calls micro stressors,
Ah,
they don't just disappear. They kind of accumulate over time. And then the effects can be pretty significant, especially as we age. It's almost like a hidden debt that we're racking up. And eventually our health has to pay the price.
okay. That's a little unsettling.
Yeah.
I'm already picturing my 85-year-old self being like, ugh, those notifications from back in 2024.
Right.
They're finally catching up to me.
Hmm.
It's interesting because it
Yeah.
really does often fly under the radar.
Right.
We've just become so accustomed to
Yeah.
the constant pings and the notifications that
Yeah.
we don't even realize how they're impacting us.
Yeah, and one of the sources we're looking at today
Oh, yeah.
actually compares our email inbox to a demanding toddler.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Sounds a little out there.
Yeah.
But stick with me on this because this analogy actually gets at something pretty profound about how we manage stress.
I see. Yeah, it's pretty clever. It's
Yeah.
a clever way to highlight how these seemingly small demands
Right.
can actually trigger a stress response.
I think that's where the toddler analogy really resonates.
Oh, yeah.
Toddlers want everything now.
Yes.
They don't understand the concept of waiting or
Exactly.
delayed gratification.
Yeah. And sometimes we fall into that same trap
Right.
with our devices.
Totally. Feeling like we need to respond to every email instantly.
Yes.
Be on top of every news story.
Yes.
Engage with every social media post.
Exactly. It's exhausting.
It is.
And ultimately, it takes away from our ability to focus on the things that truly matter.
Right. Our relationships, our passions, our own well-being.
Exactly. It's like we're spreading ourselves so thin that we're not fully present anywhere.
Right. But it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all so glued to our devices.
Right.
But are we really like paying attention to the cost?
Exactly.
What are the signs that our bodies are being like pushed to their limits?
Well, the fatigue, the irritability, the difficulty focusing aches and pains,
Right.
those can all be signs that we're not managing
Right.
all this digital stimulation effectively.
It's like we're experiencing a low-grade
Right.
tech tantrum all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so we've established that this is a real issue.
Yeah.
But what can we actually do about it?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't exactly send our phones to timeout.
Well, not exactly, but
Can we?
Kevin Hunt offers this
Yeah.
this fascinating framework
Okay.
called the health hexagon.
Okay.
It helps us see how interconnected
Right.
our well-being is. So he outlines these 6 key factors: sleep, diet, exercise, cognitive load, emotional insight,
Okay.
and something he calls spiritual offloading.
Okay, break that down for me. Spiritual offloading.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty, well, spiritual.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily about religion.
Okay.
It's about finding meaning and purpose beyond the daily grind, connecting to something larger than yourself.
Right.
It could be nature, it could be
Okay.
community involvement,
Yeah.
or even like a spiritual practice.
Okay.
The key is to nourish that part of yourself.
So it's about finding balance.
Yes.
Right? Making sure we're not just focusing on
Exactly.
work and productivity,
Yeah.
but also like nurturing our inner selves.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that all these factors are interwoven.
Oh, okay.
So when one is out of whack, it affects the others.
Right.
So if we're constantly bombarded with digital demands,
Right.
you can throw the whole hexagon off balance.
So this constant email checking, the endless scrolling,
Right.
it's not just a time suck.
Right.
It's actually impacting our sleep,
Yeah.
our diet, our ability to manage stress.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like a domino effect.
Yes.
And when all of those areas are balanced and they're working together, you're thriving. But, you know, these constant notifications, they can really chip away at that foundation, especially when it comes to sleep and even connection.
So like if I'm doom scrolling before bed,
Yeah.
that's probably not setting myself up for the best sleep.
No, not at all, because the blue light that's emitted from our devices, it can really interfere with your melatonin production, which is a hormone that's really crucial for regulating our sleep-wake cycle. And then there's also the mental stimulation, you know, like your brain is just buzzing with thoughts and worries instead of winding down for the night.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
I always thought I was just a bad sleeper.
Uh-huh.
But it makes sense if my phone's basically sabotaging my sleep every night.
Yeah.
What about the connection piece?
Yeah, so think about it. How often are you truly present with like the people around you versus, you know, being distracted by your phone?
Right.
Because those notifications, they pull us away from that genuine human connection, you know, those moments of laughter, deep conversations, shared experiences that are so vital for our well-being.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. Sometimes I catch myself, you know, scrolling through social media while I'm having dinner with my family, and I just know I'm missing out on like those important moments.
Yeah, it's definitely a common struggle in our hyper-connected world, you know. But the key here is awareness. Like, once we start to recognize the impact of these seemingly small choices, like checking our phones during meals, responding to every notification the second it comes in,
Right.
we can start to make more conscious decisions about how we actually manage our time and our attention.
So what's the first step? Like, do I need to like throw my phone in a river and just live off the grid?
Not necessarily, although a digital detox now and then can be pretty beneficial, but even like small changes can make a really big difference. So how about in the next part of our deep dive, we explore some practical strategies?
Okay, I like that. I like where this is going.
Yeah.
I'm ready to reclaim my time and attention starting right now.
I love it.
So, okay, we've established our phones are like these tiny little stress factories just pumping out these notifications that are chipping away at our health.
Yes.
But we don't just have to, like, surrender to this digital deluge, right?
Absolutely not. We have a lot more power than we think.
Okay.
And it all comes back to this idea of finite time and
Excellent.
infinite distractions. Like,
Yeah.
our time is precious.
Yeah.
It's literally the one resource we can't get back.
That's true. I've never heard anyone on their deathbed say, man, I wish I'd spent more time on my phone.
Right.
But how do we start reclaiming our time and attention?
So let's go back to that Knock Knock article for a sec.
Yeah.
One of the most effective strategies that they suggest is setting boundaries with our devices.
Okay.
You're basically creating like a do not disturb zone for your mind.
I like that, but what does that look like, practically speaking?
Well, it starts with awareness. Just pay attention to how you feel when you're constantly bombarded with all those notifications.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel anxious, scattered, overwhelmed?
Right.
And once you're aware of that negative impact, then you can start to actually implement some simple changes.
Like turning off notifications.
Exactly. Start by identifying the notifications that are actually essential, like the ones that really need your immediate attention, and anything else, silence it.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how much mental clutter you can actually clear just by disabling all those unnecessary pings and buzzes. And it's amazing how much mental energy we waste on all those distractions.
Yeah.
But here's another tip from the article: schedule specific times to actually check emails and social media.
Oh.
So instead of being reactive, and constantly checking throughout the day,
Uh-huh.
allocate specific windows of time for those activities.
So like creating like an email hour
Exactly.
instead of letting it just bleed into my entire day.
Exactly. It helps you create that sense of control and prevents you from feeling like you're always on.
Yeah.
You're essentially training your brain to focus on the task at hand instead of constantly being pulled in different directions.
Right.
And that, in turn, reduces those micro stressors we've been talking about.
I'm starting to realize that managing these micro stressors isn't just about like feeling calmer in the moment.
Yeah.
It's about protecting my health in the long run.
Right?
Like, remember that whole health hexagon thing?
I do. And all those boundaries that we're talking
Yeah.
about, turning off notifications, scheduling email
Yeah.
time. Those are all strategies that really support the mindfulness aspect of the health hexagon.
Okay.
When we're more mindful about how we're using our technology, we're better able to regulate our stress response. We can improve our sleep quality, and we can actually foster more meaningful connections.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected.
This is starting to feel less like a chore and more like I am investing in my future self.
I love that.
Like sending a little care package to my 85-year-old self.
Right.
Like, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that the choices we make today really have consequences that extend far beyond just this present moment.
Right.
It's about recognizing that our time and our attention are such precious resources and that we have the power to choose how we actually spend them.
And choosing to spend them wisely.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Less doom scrolling, more meaningful moments.
Yeah.
It's about being present, engaged, and intentional with our lives.
Uh-huh.
And trust me, your 85-year-old self will thank you for it. So let's get practical.
Okay.
What are some specific steps we can take to
Okay.
kind of like reclaim our time and energy?
So one of the simplest
Yeah.
but most powerful suggestions from Hunt
Okay.
is to greet your family
Mm-hmm.
before you even glance at your phone in the morning.
Oh, I love that. It's
Yeah.
about setting the tone for the day.
Exactly.
Prioritizing human connection
Right.
over digital demands.
Yeah.
It's like saying good morning to your loved ones
Okay.
before you check in with the toddler in your pocket.
Exactly. And he also recommends
Yeah.
keeping phones off the dinner table
Okay.
and out of the bedroom.
Right.
These are sacred spaces for connection and rest.
Yeah.
And our devices often intrude on those moments
Makes sense.
without us even realizing it.
I'm definitely guilty of mindlessly scrolling while having dinner with my family.
It's easy to do.
It is. I
Yeah.
think we all need those reminders to be present.
Yeah.
What else does he suggest?
Another interesting tip is to start the day
Okay.
with a non-email win.
Okay.
Something that makes you feel good
Mm.
and sets a positive tone.
So instead of diving headfirst into my inbox,
Right.
I could like start with a quick workout,
Yeah.
meditate, or
Exactly.
even just enjoy a cup of coffee in peace.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of my morning
Yes.
rather than letting my inbox dictate it.
Exactly. And from a physiological standpoint,
Yeah.
starting the day with a sense of accomplishment
Uh-huh.
actually helps reduce cortisol levels
Wow.
and sets you up for a less stressful day.
So even our bodies are programmed
They are.
to respond well to boundaries.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
It's amazing how these
Yeah.
small shifts
Yeah.
can have such a big impact on
true.
our well-being.
This is making me think about Hunt's decision to run during work hours.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying,
Right.
I'm going to prioritize my health. Even if it means pushing back against the traditional expectations of productivity.
And that can be a tough mindset shift.
It can. Yeah, we're so
That's-
conditioned to equate busyness with
Right.
worthiness.
Yes, exactly.
But Hunt's approach reminds us that
Yeah.
taking care of ourselves is not selfish. It's
Yeah.
essential
It is
for sustainable success.
It's about playing the long game, right?
It is.
If you're constantly burnt out and stressed,
Right.
your productivity is going to suffer anything.
Exactly. And this ties into another key point he makes,
Yeah.
accepting that you can't do it all,
Right.
which is a really important one, especially in our always-on culture.
Yes. So accepting that you can't do it all is about giving yourself permission to prioritize,
Right,
to
yeah.
set boundaries,
Yeah.
to let go of the things that are draining your energy
Right.
without adding value to your life.
It's about reclaiming our time and energy,
Exactly.
to focusing on what truly nourishes us,
Yes.
both physically and mentally.
Yes.
We're not machines, after all.
We are not.
You know, there's a certain irony in the fact that we're
Yeah.
getting all these great tips about managing email via email,
Right.
but I think it also underscores the point that
Yeah.
technology itself isn't the problem.
Right.
It's how we use it.
It's how we use it. Exactly.
And in a world where everything is screaming for our attention, it's so easy to lose sight of that, you know. But Hunt's message is really clear. We have a choice. We can let the distractions rule our lives, or we can consciously choose to invest in what really matters.
Because at the end of the day, we all have the same 24 hours.
We do.
The question is, are we spending them wisely?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's not about achieving this like perfect balance or anything. It's about recognizing that every day, every single day, we have the opportunity to make choices that align with our well-being, choices that our future selves will actually thank us for.
It feels like, there's this thread running through it all. This idea of like reclaiming our time and attention.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that in a world that's constantly telling us we need more, sometimes the most valuable thing is to say no,
Right.
no to the distractions, no to the constant demands, and yes to what actually nourishes us.
It's like we've been almost programmed to think that busy equals important, but Hunt really challenges that. Right?
Yeah, he's pushing for a much more mindful approach where we're actively choosing how we spend our time and energy. And he gives us some really practical ways to do that.
Such a simple concept,
Yeah.
but so powerful. It's like a little reminder to carve out space for ourselves, even when everything feels chaotic.
Yeah, exactly. Shifting from that, reactive mode where we're constantly just responding to whatever's coming at us to a more proactive way of being where our well-being is the priority.
And it's not even just about like scheduling that time in. It's about protecting it. My well-being is not up for negotiation.
It really is. It's valuing ourselves, valuing our time. And it all ties back to that idea of investing in our future selves,
Right.
making choices today that benefit us down the line, even if it means saying no to things that feel important in the moment.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive into like knock knock and all this stuff about micro stressors,
Yeah.
I keep thinking about this idea of our 85-year-old selves.
It's such a powerful lens, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, to view our choices through,
Like imagining how our decisions today might actually affect us decades down the line.
totally.
It really makes you realize that those like seemingly insignificant choices, like hitting the snooze button one more time or scrolling through social media instead of going for a walk
Right.
or mindlessly checking email for the 100th time, it all adds up.
It really does. Like the compound interest of well-being,
Oh.
or in this case, maybe the compound interest of stress.
Oh, wow.
Small actions repeated consistently over time can have such a profound impact.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
Exactly.
So how do we make sure that we're earning the right kind of interest? Like what advice would our 85-year-old selves give us if they could?
Oh, I think they would definitely tell us to prioritize the things that truly matter.
Okay.
Our health, our relationships, our passions. They'd remind us that time is our most valuable asset, and it's up to us to spend it wisely.
That's so true. And the article mentions this quote from John Lennon that says, "Time spent doing nothing is rarely wasted."
Yes.
I always kind of thought that was just about like relaxing,
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, there's like a whole other layer to that.
Yeah, it's about recognizing the value of stillness. of
Yeah.
disconnecting from the constant noise and the demands of the digital world.
Yeah.
Because it's in those quiet moments that we can connect with ourselves, with our loved ones, and with the world around us.
It's like creating space for reflection and for creativity and just for being present.
Right.
Yeah.
And those moments, those experiences, those are the things that we're going to cherish when we're 85.
Yeah.
Not the number of emails we answered or the likes we got on a post.
Yeah, this whole conversation has been like a wake-up call for me.
Good.
I'm ready to start making some changes
Awesome.
to really invest in my future self.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I encourage you to reflect on what you've heard today.
Go.
What's resonated with you? What are some of those digital habits you'd like to change? Or like boundaries you want to set?
Yeah, it's about identifying those little things
Right.
that might be throwing your health hexagon off balance.
Yeah.
Like, are you sacrificing sleep to catch up on emails?
Oh, yeah.
Is your phone like the last thing you see before bed
Right.
and the first thing you reach for in the morning?
Those are definitely habits I'm guilty of.
Yeah, but even small changes,
Right.
like silencing notifications after a certain hour
Okay.
or leaving your phone in another room while you sleep,
Right.
those can make a big difference.
Totally. Yeah. It's about taking those like incremental steps
Exactly.
towards reclaiming your time and attention.
Yeah, what feels achievable for you right now?
Right.
What's like one small boundary you
Yeah.
could set today?
That's such a great question to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not about making drastic changes overnight.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Like building from there.
Yeah, maybe it's as simple as taking a walk without your phone
Right.
or committing to tech-free dinners with your family.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
This whole conversation has been such an eye-opener for me. I think I've been so used to the constant demands
Yeah.
that I didn't even realize
Right.
how much it was impacting my well-being.
It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind,
It is.
especially in our hyper-connected world. But
Right.
the good news is
Yeah.
we have more agency than we realize.
Okay.
We can choose how we engage with technology
Right.
and create a life that feels more balanced and fulfilling.
And that's such an empowering message.
It is.
It's not about becoming a Luddite
Right.
or swearing off technology altogether.
So,
It's about finding a healthier relationship
exactly.
with our devices.
Technology can be an incredible tool,
Right.
but like any tool,
Yeah.
it needs to be used thoughtfully and intentionally.
It's about remembering that we are humans,
Yes.
not machines.
We need time to rest,
Right.
to recharge,
Yeah.
and to connect with the world around us in meaningful ways.
And those connections,
Mm-hmm.
both with ourselves and with others, are ultimately what bring us joy and purpose.
Absolutely. So I guess as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Imagine yourself at 85. Looking back on your life, what do you see? What are those choices you're most proud of?
Yeah. Is it the extra hours at work or the time you spend on your passions, your health, your relationships? Those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves now.
Because in the end, it's not about just living longer. It's about living better.
Hmm.
And that starts with, really paying attention to how we spend this precious time we have. And every time I feel tempted to reach for my phone,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask myself, what would my 85-year-old self think?
That's a great question to keep in mind because ultimately we're not just making choices for today.
Right?
We're shaping the legacy of our well-being
Wow.
for years to come.
So as we're signing off from this deep dive, let's all make a commitment to be more mindful of our time and our attention.
Yes, let's choose to invest in those things that truly matter so that when we reach 85, we can look back on our lives with joy, gratitude, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to it. Go forth and tame those tech toddlers.
Yes. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Absolutely.
Till next time, take care.